I will multiply my value 100-fold. A part of my real estate training that made multi-millionaires. Like fine wine, you only read until something motivates you. A goal in my life to figure out how to multiply my value.
Everybody, welcome to the HighScale podcast. Today, we are going to speak about just a very important topic in general. And that's kind of that driving force, your own driving force to do what you have to do, I guess, because we all know business is tough. So today we're going to speak to Dennis, who, man, his record is just what he's done. I'm actually not even going to talk myself, and I'm going to let him get into it. So, Dennis, thank you for being on again. Just first question, well, I just want to ask you to just introduce yourself and give us your, I guess, journey through entrepreneurship and from like when you started to like where you are today.
Well, Roger, I don't know if you have enough time. I started when I graduated from college, I became a band director. I'd gone through college in music. I wanted to be in that band and actually kind of got a degree by accident. I went to Jacksonville State University to be in the Marching Southerners. And after I stayed there for 5 years marching in the band, they called me into the education department. And they sat me down. They said, well, Mr. Henson, when you complete these 3 courses, you'll be eligible to graduate. And I looked at them really funny and I said, you mean to tell me that if I take those 3 courses, you're going to give me a degree? I really never thought about it. I was there to be in the band. And so I grabbed that paper and went and took the courses and asked them and started teaching band. I wasn't happy teaching high school band because they were just not as motivated as I had been used to in the college band. So I decided I wanted to become a college band director. So I went back to school, got a master's degree, and then I took a large high school in Athens, Georgia. And we marched in the Rose Bowl parade. We made spirit ratings. And so I'd made some contacts, and a friend that was at Georgia Tech had told them about me. And Georgia Tech asked me to come and I'll be the band director there. And I thought, oh, that's great. Well, I had already signed up with the University of Mississippi, Ole Miss, to finish my doctorate. They were giving me a fellowship. So I was having to choose, but I thought, well, why do I need a doctorate if I already have a job as a college band director? So I moved to Atlanta and was ready to sign the contract the next day when I got a phone call. Now, back then, there were no cell phones. This was back in the mid-'70s. And I was staying with a friend, and he got the call, and he said, it's for you. And I thought, who would be calling me here? Who even knows I was here? Well, my mother had told him where I was. So it was a large company in Tennessee. And they said, well, we want to hire you. And I said, well, no chance. I've got the ideal job. I'm going to be the band director at Georgia Tech. And they said, well, let us fly you up here. We'll pick you up in the limousine, give you a round trip plane ticket. We'll buy you a steak, $25 cigar. You're going to be treated like a king. And I thought, well, I'll do that. I'll go up there and I'll tell them no. So I took the ticket and went up there, and they picked me up in a limousine and bought me a steak, took me to the president of the company's home, and it was a beautiful home. I'd never seen a home like that. It was really big, and in the back of the home, inside the back of his home, was a full-size pool inside us. And I'd never seen anything like that. And I thought, my goodness. We went to the plant, and they were having a sales meeting. There must have been 50 or 60 Mercedes-Benz there. Well, the long story of this, they offered me 20 times what Georgia Tech was going to pay. And I took it.
Wow.
I was a young kid and never had much money. And I thought, my goodness, that's just going to be amazing. So I took the money and I bought a home, and I bought a Mercedes Benz, so I'd be like the other people. And I got married. I just had money, so much money. So one of the first things they did was they gave me 3 books. They gave me, well, actually 4. They gave me Success, the Glenn Glenn Method, Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill, and The Greatest Salesman in the World by Og Mandino. And they also gave me the Henkel Manual. So after I read those books, I was a different person after reading those books than before I read them. I mean, they just changed me. And I was super motivated. I went out and sold and sold and sold. I couldn't wait to get up in the morning, go out and get in front of somebody because I was making the first day, I made about $3,000. Well, at Clark Central, I was only making $8,000 for the year. And the first day I made $3,000. And I thought, my goodness, what am I going to do with all this money? So I stayed with that company for several years. But the main thing I got from it was this: I wanted more books. After I devoured those books, I thought, man, that was a great feeling, a feeling of euphoria and motivation. And so back then there wasn't Google. Nobody ever heard of Google. There wasn't even an internet. So you had to contact other people. So I contacted the other salesman in the company and I said, what are you reading? They told me about several books. Psycho-Cybernetics was one. I remember that one. And there's the list of the books are in the back of the book that I've written. So over the years, every time I found a book that was super motivational, I kept a list. One of the sales meetings that we had with Henco, that was the company, they had Jim Rohn come over. Well, this was back in the 70s. Nobody ever heard of Jim Rohn in the 70s. He was just getting started. I mean, he was just another guy that was at a sales meeting, and we became friends, and he convinced me to use a journal, write everything down. So I started writing down all those motivational books, not all of them, just the ones that were really good. I mean, they had to really shape me up. And I thought, well, I want to go back and read this again someday. So I started keeping a list of books. And I joined SMI. That was a company here in Texas. It was in Waco. And they had motivational cassette tapes. And you get 2 tapes, and you listen to them and send them back. And as long as you were a member, they would send you 2 more. So I would get the cassette tapes and record them and send them right back. I built a great library, a big library of motivational tapes. And so when I was doing my sales routes, driving all over Florida and in Georgia, I was listening to cassette tapes. And every time I heard a quote or a poem that was good, I thought, something, I may have to make a speech one day, or I may just, who knows? So I wrote them down. So for 50 years, during all my travels and so forth, I've really done too many things to go. I mean, I've been in several multi-level organizations. I've owned a surveying company, an engineering company. I've been in fundraising. I mean, I'd have to make a list and write it out and come back and tell you what all I've done since 1975. But it's been a lot of things. I'm a true entrepreneur. I get bored. I do something and I love it. And then I get bored with it and I want to go do something else. So
I know that feeling.
Yeah. My goal is to come in and sit down in an office and write out a list for a lot of people. I have a lot of people that work for me, and I want to write out a list for them and prioritize it, give it to them. Because in the book, Og Mandino's book, The Greatest Salesman in the World, one of the scrolls said, today I will multiply my value 100-fold. Well, when I read that, I thought, how can I do that? I don't know what that means. So I made it a goal in my life to figure out how to multiply my value, and I figured it out. So you get 10 or 15 VAs to work for you, and you have a secretary and a personal assistant, and you have all these people. In real estate, it's easy. You get realtors who work for you. You get people that are going to fix the property up. So I learned to delegate, which is the easiest way to multiply your value. And those people help me write books. They help me get funding for my real estate deals. They help me get my real estate deals ready to go and market them. They help me rent properties and so forth. So uh, anyway, that's pretty much how I am. I've got 4 or 5 businesses going on at any one time.
Wow. Now, how I know you're using VAs to like juggle the multiple businesses. And you're in real estate. I guess, how would you say, or what is a lesson, I guess, from early on in your journey that would still apply?
I got into real estate by watching Carlton Sheets. Actually, that's not true. My first real estate deal, when I graduated from college, I became a high school band director. And they said, well, if you'll come here to be the band director, I was the drum major of the Southerners, so everybody wanted me to be the band director. So one little school said, if you'll come here to be the band director, we'll give you a house to live in. And I thought, wow, that's great, a salary and a house. So I signed the contract and moved up there. And the principal said, the board met, said they don't want to let you live in that house. I'd already signed the contract. So I said, well, we don't have any place to live. And he said, well, we have a lot over here if you want to put a mobile home on it. And I said, well, I don't have a mobile home. He said, well, go buy one. And so I bought a mobile home, and it was on Railroad Street right there on the school campus. I'd been living with a band parent getting ready for school to start and going to band camp. And I thought, it was 10 miles away. I thought, boy, when I move into that mobile home, I get to sleep. I'll be able to sleep right up to like 7 o'clock and start band camp at 8. So the first night in the mobile home, I went to sleep and I thought, oh man, this is great. I could sleep till 7 o'clock. And at 3 o'clock, I found out why it was on Railroad Street. So train came by within about 5 foot of the mobile home, and the whole place was shaking like this. And I was holding on to the bed trying to keep, and they blew the horn. I mean, it was upside the town, and like, oh my God. If you ever seen my cousin Benny, it was very similar to his situation. He couldn't get any sleep. So I said, this is not important. I went and bought a house. I thought, well, I'll just rent out this mobile home. So this nice family came by, gave me $300 check. We moved in, and the check bounced, and I never could find them again. And they never paid me anything. I never saw them again. And I didn't know how to get them out for a year.
That's insane.
I finally got them out after a year. That was my first experience in real estate investing. And I remember saying, I'm not very good at this landlording stuff. I'm never going to do that again. Which is funny because that's pretty much what I do right now is being a landlord. But then years later, I got a book called How to Wake Up the Financial Genius Inside You by Mark Henson. And I read that book and I started investing again. And then I saw Carlton Sheets late at night on TV. And I thought, well, I'd like to do that. So over the years, I just bought more and more and more properties. And so finally, I was working for a company, and they wanted to move me to Washington, D.C. Well, I'm a Southern boy, and I'd been to Washington, D.C. That was not someplace I wanted to live. I mean, I just told them, no, I'm not going to do that. I'll just do my real estate. And at the time, I already had enough real estate to live. They gave me they continued to pay me for 6 months after I left, a severance package. So I really just hit the real estate really hard in Texas. So after, let's see, that was in 2007. In 2006, I wanted to go to real estate investor meetings, but Dallas, the DFW area is big. I mean, unless you live here, you don't have any idea how big it is. And I live in Arlington. Well, to go to a Dallas real estate group, if the traffic was bad, it'd take you an hour and a half to get there. and an hour to get back. So that was, a long time. And the same way with Fort Worth, the only big group in Fort Worth was in North Fort Worth, and that was another hour drive. And you had an hour coming back. So I said, well, I just started a real estate group here in Arlington. And I did. It became really big. And I would teach classes so that I could learn. I thought, well, if I want to learn about short sales, I'll tell everybody I'm going to teach a class on short sales next month. And I have a month to learn everything about it. So when they ask me questions, I could answer them. And so I did that. One of the members came up to me, his name was Mike, and he said, Dennis, I'm going to retire in about 3 months. No, 3 weeks. I'm going to retire in about 3 weeks. And I'm going to let you mentor me to show me what, how to do this real estate. And I said, well, Mike, I don't want to do that. I'm too busy. I have this group and I have my real estate. I'm just too busy to teach. And he says, well, let me take you to lunch and we'll discuss it. I told Norma, that's my wife. I said, Norma, I'm going to go tell Mike I'm not going to teach him. And she said, okay. So we went. It was at a Whataburger. He bought me a Whataburger. And so afterwards, he reached into his pocket and he pulled out a checkbook and he handed it to me and he said, here, fill this in. And I looked at him and I said, you mean the amount? And he said, yeah. And I thought, okay, I'll fix you. I'll put an amount here. Nobody's going to pay. And I wrote and I gave it to him. And without even looking at the amount, he tore the check out, signed it, and handed it back to me. He didn't even look. It could have been $100,000. He looked. He never flinched. He took the class. And if you want to look there on YouTube, there's him making a testimonial after about 3 years. He's there making a testimonial saying how much he appreciated it and it was a great investment and so forth. So I thought, well, shit, if people wouldn't pay me that kind of money, I'll become a teacher. And I did. I started teaching real estate investing, and my students were really good. I mean, they were better than me. I was a much better teacher than I was an investor because they'd do whatever I said, and I knew what to do. And so they went out and did it, and I became pretty much a local celebrity. People would have me speak at expos. They would, I've spoken in several countries. I'm going all over to the United States talking about my students. So I was on a podcast one day, and the host said, Dennis, why are your students so successful? I said, well, I haven't changed their habits. If they can form success habits, they'll become successful. And then he said, well, what's the number one success habit our audience can do to become successful? Oh, for a second, then I said, well, they should form the habit of reading something positive every day that moves them toward their goal. And their goal is real estate investing. So every single day, they should read something positive and educational that moves them toward the goal. So after that podcast, I was thinking, man, that was the right answer. That was really a good answer. I was patting myself on the back. And then I thought, wouldn't it be great if someone came up with a tool, something that would help people form the habit of reading every day and make it simple? Then it hit me. I mean, it was almost like I was struck. Somebody jarred me. I thought, wait a minute. Dennis, you've been collecting motivational books, short stories, poems, quotes for 50 years. You can put a book together where people can form the habit regardless of their time. If they've got 5 minutes, they read a poem. If they have 30 minutes, they can read a short story. If they're sitting at the airport with 3 hours, they can take one of the books from the list in the back and read for 3 hours. But if they get home and they forgot to read, because, to form a habit, you have to do it every single day. They hit the bed and they thought, oh, I forgot to read. They can pick the book off their nightstand, flip over and read a motivational quote in 3 seconds and go to sleep thinking about that. So I was motivated then. I thought, well, this would be something I can give to my students. Then I realized this is not just for real estate. all of the poems quote, it's for any business. Anyone that wants to become better, that forms the habit of reading something positive every day that leads them toward their goal, whatever it is. One of the stories in the book's about Lincoln, and he described himself at one point in his life as a floating piece of driftwood because he didn't know what he wanted to do. Then one day he came into possession of some law books, and he read them and he just fell in love with them. So he started attending trials. And once he got in the courtroom, he thought, I'm home. This is what I need to do. I'll do whatever it takes. Now, this was a guy who was pretty much illiterate. He had less than a first grade education. He had read most of his life, but in order to pass the bar, that was a big step. But he did it. He did whatever it took. He knew what he wanted, which is kind of the master key to riches. And that's what Napoleon Hill says. It's definiteness of purpose or a burning desire, whether it's real estate, law, medicine, or if you want to become an engineer, if you want to have money, if you want to travel, whatever it is. If you know what you want and you have a burning desire to get there, and you form the habit of reading every day, move you in that direction, it's more than just the reading. It keeps you focused on where you're going. If every single day you form a habit that focuses you, that refocuses you, well, an entrepreneur, if you're an entrepreneur and I am, you think of 50 different businesses a day. I mean, that'd be then I'll make another. I can make money doing that. Well, you can, but you have to focus on it. You can't just do this today and something else tomorrow and something else the next day. You really got to focus on one thing in order to have a real impact, which is the name of the book. So the book was not written to be read from cover to cover. It was written to be read a little at a time. Zig Ziglar said, little by little, a little becomes a lot. If you only read 20 pages of a 200-page book every day for a year, you will have read 20 books, which is 19 more than the average person. And he said, that will set you apart. Zig Ziglar was super successful, still is, and he's not alive anymore. He's still successful through his children. His story's in the book too, by the way. But the book that I wrote would change people's lives. And that's kind of why I wrote it. It's kind of my legacy, and wasn't written so much to make a lot of money, although I imagine I will at some point. It's to help a lot of people. Like, I used to wonder, did Socrates have any idea that we'd still be quoting him hundreds and hundreds of years later? I wonder if he knew that. I wonder if Napoleon Hill knew that his book would continue to motivate people. Well, a few weeks ago, I was listening to him speak on YouTube. There's some old recordings. And he said, I want to tell you about my new book, which has helped millions of people become successful, and it will continue to for years and years and years to come. And I thought, he knew. And Roger, I know my book's going to help many, many, many people for years and years to come. You just have to use it the way it was outlined. So anyway, that's a brief overview of my career.
So your book, the Real Impact, Daily Inspiration.
Yes.
I find it very interesting how I guess you transitioned from entrepreneur to author. I guess my question here is, I'm very interested in the way that the book is structured, because when you think book, it's page one and you read it to the end. So
Right.
now, I guess what inspired you to structure a book in such a non-conventional way? Or how did this all come together to where the book is structured in such a way, in this way?
Roger, it was done that way. First of all, it makes sense that I become an author because I'm an entrepreneur, and anything that I see that I think, oh, well, this would, possibly be a good business, that it's just another business. Okay. But I really didn't write it so much to make a lot of money, although I think it will eventually. I wrote it to help a lot of people. And Zig Ziglar, in the book, Zig Ziglar says, if you can help enough people get what they want, you get what you want. And I believe that.
Yeah.
So the book looks like this. I was doing a podcast with a book publisher. This guy does lots of books. I mean, he helps people write. He helps them. He actually produces books. And he held this book up and he said, Dennis, this may be the nicest book I've ever held in my hand. And I thought, wow, that's the president of a company that produces books saying that. But I went all out because this is a legacy gift that a grandparent can give to a grandchild, or that an uncle or an aunt can give to someone graduating from high school or college. And it's a legacy. People don't throw books away, not nice books. This book will be on someone's bookshelf 50 years from now. And I know that's true because my aunt gave me a book in 1973 when I graduated from college, which is like 52 years ago. And I still have the book, and I still think about her every time I look at it. So it's an excellent legacy gift. And it's a nice gift for under $50. Where are you going to find something that's really classy to give someone that's actually under $40? So that's another thing. But the reason I structured it the way it's structured, the very first thing in it, I didn't have any testimonials about being an author. So I contacted my students and I said, would you write a testimonial about your training and whether people should listen to me? Like, oh, yeah, they will. So the very first part of the book is testimonials, and it's amazing what they said. You should just get it. In fact, if it's okay, I'm going to give everybody that's listening a free copy of the ebook. There's no strings. It's just free. Is that okay?
That's amazing. Appreciate that. We really do.
Okay. So if they'll go to realimpactbook.com, scroll down to the bottom where it says podcast attendee, you click on that, put in your name and email, and instantly you'll have the book. You can actually have the book before I finish this paragraph. It comes immediately. And you won't be put on any mailing list. You just get the book for free. Now, I have an ulterior motive because when you get it and read it, you're going to say, oh, I see. I can give this to my niece. I can give it to somebody who's graduating. I mean, you're going to make a list of people that you can help out. Entrepreneurs love this kind of book because it's so motivational, inspirational. So the first thing is testimonials. The next thing is how to use this book, the magic formula. And it's really magic. If you go to realimpactbook.com, up in the corner, you see this lamp. Up in the left-hand corner, it says, the secret of the lamp. The magic formula is up in the left-hand corner. And you click on that, and there's a recording there that you listen to that tells you how to use this book and how the magic works. And it's really not magic, but it's kind of like gravity or inertia or magnetism. It's something, it's like the wind, the driving wind, or the ocean's tide. It's a natural law. And if you use the natural law the way it's intended, the way that you should, your business is just going to take off. Anything that you want, you'll start moving in that direction really fast. It's like a rudder on a boat. If a boat doesn't have a rudder, doesn't matter how much power you have in the motor, you get out there and it just go, but it never goes anywhere. Who knows where you're going to end up?
Yeah.
But this gives you a rudder. And if you've got power in your boat, which is your will, your determination, you can go wherever you want to go. And so this is a very powerful book. I hope everybody will get their free copy and think of some people that you can help. There's also a tab on the website that says help the children. I want to give this book out to 1 million children. I want to give it to disadvantaged communities, libraries that can't afford to get really nice books, and small schools that do not have a very, I don't know, Roger, if you understand this, but there are a lot of schools throughout the nation just do not have the budget to do the things they want to do with their school. I used to work with a company that helped schools raise money because they didn't have the money in their budget. They had to do something to raise money. So they can't afford to buy a book, even if they think this is something I really need. They get the books maybe that the government allows them to have, but they need something better than that. So I have a GoFundMe program, and if you give to it, all of the money goes toward giving this book to disadvantaged children for child literacy, and continuing education. So it's going to help a lot of people that way too. You know,
That's amazing.
I really appreciate you giving me this time to get the word out about this. And the book's not, if you give this book to a grandparent, maybe someone in a nursing home, this is one of the most interesting books ever written. And the reason I know it is the stories were interesting before I put them in there. I just collected interesting stories over 50 years. And so why wouldn't it be interesting? It's really good. And if you're go to Amazon,
Absolutely,
and type in my name, Dennis J. Henson, or type in Real Impact Corporation, and look at the reviews. I've got over 100 reviews and a 5-star rating. Do you know how hard that is? If you were ever an author, you'd know.
It really is. A lot of people.
Most books have 3 or 4 ratings. Okay, I've got over 100, and it's really difficult to get 5 stars. I mean, my goodness, the book has to really be excellent, because people will give you 4 stars in an instant if they see a misspelled word or something's repeated. I mean, they just they're cruel. They're bitter. So anyway, if you get the book and you like it, I'm giving it to you free. Please go to Amazon there and give it a rating, because the more ratings you have, the more the word gets out. Because people want to read books that other people think are good.
Absolutely. Yeah. And a lot of people, they really don't look at the value of reading a book. A good book contains so much good value that, like you said, a one book could change your life. Yeah, I'm definitely going to claim my copy, and I'm going to go through this because this is something that's going to help me, because this, the motivation, like I said in the beginning of this, is something right now that I'm going through right now. My motivation is like this. Tired, life, this, that, the other, but you have to keep plowing through, which is why this is so interesting to me personally. And I do appreciate you, because you taking the time to come and speak to about this, and you sharing what you've collected over so much time, because a lot of our listeners may not even know the stories that are in this book, but there's so much value in stories and of the past, and of the past entrepreneurs, and of Zig Ziglar, and these people who've built such huge names in their spaces. So, and you know, I'm familiar with Zig Ziglar, but again, I'm not familiar with thing he's done also. And I know that I'm 32, so people who are younger than me, they may definitely not know who he is. So, I do appreciate you sharing that much knowledge. Now, just curious. Now, in your opinion, because again, you juggle multiple businesses, how does daily reading habits translate to, or how can an entrepreneur use that to translate into success for their business?
Roger, if you get into a car and you go north, can you go south at the same time?
Absolutely not.
No, you can only go in one direction, right? You can either go this way or that way. And there's no in between. I mean, you can turn and go this way. It's the same way with your emotion. And emotion plays a great deal in your success. If you're happy and you're motivated, you get so much more done. People want to work with you. Everything's a lot smoother. And if you're educated, then that even greases the wheels even more. So if you're having a tough time, everybody has tough times. One of the laws of nature is everybody is going to experience setbacks. They're going to have problems. They're going to get sick. People are going to die. They're going to lose some money. People are going to disappoint you. I mean, if you don't have a problem, one of the things I like to think of is be happy with the problems you have. Because if you didn't have any problems, you'd created a vacuum. And nature does not permit vacuums. So if you don't have any problems, you better look out. And the longer it is between problems, the bigger the problem's going to be. So just be happy with the problems you got. You're alive, you're breathing, your hands work, you got all these things going for you. You're warm at night, when it's cold. And people just don't realize how important gratitude is. So this book keeps you motivated. When you're reading something that really motivates you, you can't be sad. You can't go two directions at one time. If you're feeling upset, my mother started me this on this track many, many years ago. Every time I was mopey and wasn't happy, she would make me sit down and write down everything I had to be happy about, my grandparents, and she'd start the list and she'd make me, and if I stopped writing, and before long I was out playing, because you can't be grateful and sad at the same time. One of the quotes in the book from Abraham Lincoln said, "A fella is just about as happy as he makes up his mind to be." Another quote in the book says, "If you think you're happy, you're happy." That's just a switch. If you want to be happy, be happy. If you got problems, don't dwell on the problems. Dwelling on them doesn't help. Dreading something doesn't help. Like I have eye surgery coming up at the end of this week. And you know how much time I've spent thinking about it? Zero. If it comes in, I won't think about it. It'll just happen and then my eyes will be better. So don't dread things. My wife likes to worry. I love my wife. She's so sweet, but she loves to worry. And I set her down and I say, "Look, what if this doesn't happen and you did all this worry?" She said, "Oh, yeah, but." I said, "Well, what if it does happen? Did the worry help?" No. So as an entrepreneur, you don't have time to be worried. If you're running a business, it's too important that you're sharp, you know what you're doing, that you can think clearly, and you're not sitting around with your head in your hand. Because if the people that work for you get the feeling that you're depressed, they get depressed too, and then your whole business grinds to a halt. So you can't let that happen. But one of the things that the book is going to do, give you something positive every day to lean on. You can contemplate it. Years ago, back in the 5th century, a group of monks decided they wanted to get closer to the scriptures. So they came up with this system called Lectio Divina, where they would read a scripture, then they would visualize themselves in the scripture, whatever it said. And then they would read it out loud. And then they would contemplate it over a period of time. Now, this is just one scripture. Right? So they did that every day. So I was having a podcast one day, and the host said, "Dennis, what you're saying about that book, that sounds like Lectio Divina." And I said, "Really? What's that?" So I looked it up, and sure enough, it really is. The book's meant to be contemplated. It says right in the front of the book, don't read it straight through. It's not meant to be read straight through. It's meant to be sipped like fine wine. You only read until something motivates you, and then you contemplate that. Anyway, I hope this inspires a lot of people to get the free book and use it. But the truth is, once you go to the website and you get The Secret of the Lamp, you're going to have to get the book for The Secret of the Lamp to work. Because if Aladdin had rubbed the picture of the lamp, it wouldn't have worked. Well, have another question?
Definitely. So, honestly, in terms of real estate, because I'm in real estate myself, what would you, to someone new coming into the real estate business, what would you be your biggest piece of advice, or what should they do? How should they? What would you tell them to do? Someone, who's coming in has nothing in real estate or is new. What would you tell that person to do?
Okay, I'm going to tell you three things, the top three things. First of all, this book was a part of my real estate training that made multi-millionaires. They read these same stories. They read these same quotes. So it's really a piece of what's going to work for you. So get the book, how to use the book, the magic formula, and do that. That's the first thing. The next thing is this. If you want to be successful in real estate investing, it's simple. Make offers. Make offers. You need to find a system to figure out what should I offer, which is really easy. And I teach my kids 70% of the after repair value, less the cost of putting the deal together, whatever that is, repairs or whatever else. And you just go out and make offers and make them and make them and make them. And the law of averages takes over. So what if you made 100 offers and you didn't get one? Well, Robert Allen tells the story of a student that he had in Chicago that came to him and said, Robert, I've done everything you said. I made 100 offers. What should I do now? He said, go out and make 100 more. And now that student owns about half of Chicago because every time you make an offer, you get better. You find out what you're doing wrong. You get over when I first started doing podcasts, I was a little nervous. Do I seem nervous?
Not at all.
Just a talk conversation with me and you. So it's the same way with real estate. Once you figure out how much you should offer and you go and sit down with someone, you have a conversation with them and you learn by reading what to say. On my training site, I have answers to objections, and there's probably 200 or 300 objections. There's a lot of them. Every objection that you can imagine is on .com. And you just learn, you hear the objection, you already know what to say. Listen, repeat it back to them, and then you tell them the answer, and then you make the offer again. How many times can you make an offer? Sometimes the students come in and say, well, I just couldn't find anybody to make an offer. And I said, well, come with me and I'll go next door and knock on the door next door. And the people come to the door. And I say, I really like this home. I was wondering if you'd be interested. I'd pay you this much for it. I said, that's how easy it is. There in sales training, I don't remember the name of the training. I think it's called The Rock. So how do you find prospects? Well, you go outside and you find a rock. And, about this big, you maybe wash it off and smooth it. And you walk outside and you throw it as far as you can. And you go to the rock and you look for the nearest person, whoever you see, you can make your sales presentation to them. That's kind of how it is. How many houses are there within 5 miles of you? Really? I mean, I don't know where you are, but I can tell you within 5 miles, there's probably a lot of houses. Well, every one of them is a prospect. Go over to buy their house. So here's the key to real estate investing. Make offers, find money, read. Make offers, find money, read. Make offers, find money, and read. If you don't read and you don't find the money, just go make the offers. If you don't want it, somebody else does. And I used to say in my groups, I say, if you find that somebody accepts your offer and you don't know what to do, call me, I'll buy it and I'll pay you something for it. If you made the right offer. Real estate investing is so simple. And there's entire industries out there that work for you for free. Insurance people work for you for free. Realtors work for you for free. The title companies. If you know what you're doing, you don't ever have to pay any title company because you put it on the other person. You're going to pay all title expenses. So there's big industries out there wanting to help you become a successful real estate investor, which I think is probably the best job in the world, real estate investing. It has the best product in the world. Who doesn't need shelter? I don't
Absolutely.
think I've ever met anybody that don't. They may not need a TV, and they may not need a chair, or they may not need a monitor, but they all need shelter. So it's a perfect product.
I would 100% agree with that. As much as I don't want a landlord, as much as the horror stories, I'm going through like 3 evictions right now. But at the end of the day, on the flip side, it is very much worth it. It really is. Um, Dennis, man, I really want to thank you for being on. I want to thank you for the book, for for the audience, for giving the audience the book, and just is there anything else that you wanted to say before we end this off today?
Absolutely. RealImpactBook.com. There's a lot there. I've only talked about 2 things: the mystery of the lamp and get your book free. But go to the web. It's a beautiful website. Have you opened it up? It's beautiful, and it has videos on it. It's got all kinds of things that it tells you who to give the gift to if you want to give it as a gift. But just spend some time there, get your free book. There's also a contact me if you need someone to do public speaking. I do speaking, or if you just need some help. Maybe you get down, you just want somebody to talk to. I'm so easy to get in touch with. I mean, you can Google my name and phone number and say Dennis J. Henson phone number, and it'll pop right up. So I'm easy, really easy to find, and I'm anxious to help people. That's my life's goal. In my winter years, if I can help people out, then I'll be repaid in kind.
Definitely. I definitely agree with that. Dennis, again, thank you guys. I really, really want to encourage everyone to go over to Dennis's website, The Real Impact Book. This conversation has been great. His story and just everything, all his experience in general. There's so much, so much that we could all learn. We, including myself, that we could all learn from. So everybody, let's get over there. Let's eat this information up, because these are the things that the school system isn't necessarily teaching us, and these are the gems that really, really, really differentiate the successful from the not successful. And here we're trying to succeed. So Dennis, thank you for sharing that information, and thank you for sharing so much years of experience. And I'm looking forward to speaking to you again.
Thank you, Roger. I appreciate you having me.
Thank you, Dennis.